Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live. My name is Ben McCarthy, and I'm going to be your host for today. And it feels like I've been a while since I've hosted a LinkedIn Live, so it's good to be back. And today, of course, we're going to be speaking about AI and specifically about how it's transforming legal tech. So AI has obviously been around for a while now with the release of ChatGPT. But the really special and powerful parts of AI are going to come when we specialize, whether it's specializing using LLMs that have been built for a specific purpose or using it within an industry for a specific purpose. And that's going to be where the really powerful stuff happens. So it's my pleasure to introduce Nate. Hey, Nate.
Hey, thank you very much.
And Chris. And I'll hand over to you guys now to take us through the presentation. We will be having questions at the end. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll try and get around to as many as we can at the end. Over to you guys.
Perfect. Just want to make sure everyone's able to see the screen?
Yeah, all good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Cool. So yeah, as Ben mentioned, we're going to talk about AI and how it's transforming legal tech and everything else. Quick introduction, myself, my name is Nate Sikander. I'm the VP of Product and Development for Fox at eSign. And I've had a pretty unique career spanning from starting my own company, going through acquisition, and then working at large multinational corporations and then scaling hyper growth startups. And I've done all of that through the lens of product management. My co-presenter here is Chris, and I'll let him do his introduction.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Ford. I'm the CEO and founder of Legalized.ai. So I've been in tech for around 10 years now, from startups to global corporations. And then Legalized.ai, we founded in partnership with a civil litigation law firm, and excited to let you know more about our company.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. I think it's really important to kind of start with kind of understanding what is legal tech. And, there's legal tech and there's legal services, which are two kind of different things, where legal services are actually the services that law firms and things like that are able to provide. And then legal tech is the infrastructure and technology that supports the development of services for these law firms. And you can basically look at legal tech in a couple of different ways. You can look at it through the way that you break down the different components that they utilize. And we'll go into some of those details here in the next couple of slides. But one thing that's really interesting that you can see is legal tech is experiencing a significant growth. So their total addressable TAM last year was 2023. And in just 5 years, it's going to be close to 45.7 billion. So, almost a 70% increase in that total opportunity. And there's several factors that are associated with why legal tech is growing at the rates that it is. One of the biggest ones, I don't know if you guys all remember, Chris, you might remember, there was this big global pandemic about 4 years ago that changed the entire world. Not talking about ChatGPT, talking about COVID-19. And that really showed the legal industry how far they were behind in tech adoption, because they weren't able to mitigate those issues as quickly as some of the other industries. And so what you started to see, particularly in the PE side of things, was a lot of investment into that because they saw a significant need. And you saw a lot of consolidation, where previously there was disparate services and disparate softwares that people were using. Now, all of a sudden, companies were buying and merging and coming together and partnering to create more holistic, all-inclusive platforms that did a whole bunch of things rather than having disparate applications that did, one or two things. And so that was probably one of the biggest drivers. And then, taking it a step further and looking at, where we are today, AI is changing everything. And so, all of those factors have really come in to really change the landscape of legal tech completely. In legal tech, you can see the current trends. The number one trend right now in legal tech is AI and automation. And, I think it's very clear as to why. There's a lot of different use cases for AI in general. But I think, as Ben, really alluded to, once you start to get focused and specific within a vertical or within a space, then you really start to see the power of AI. And I'm excited to see what Chris and his team is doing at Legalized and show you guys that. And then the last slide, just to kind of look again at what are the components of that, you can see there's a bunch of various different softwares and tools that are needed to support the growth of a firm. And it's all based on technologies and, there's just so many components that are there, which is why you see such a unique landscape in legal tech. So I thought it was really helpful to kind of lay the picture of what that is. And then we'll start tying that back into some of how AI is changing things and, take it a step further. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, sounds good. And that was a really good overview of the legal tech ecosystem, because we kind of had, starting in 2015, the wave of practice management systems. Not starting, it had been going on for a while, but we kept seeing that industry grow, or that subset of the industry grow. And now we're starting to see the same thing with artificial intelligence and how that's propelling legal tech forward. So it's a really interesting time right now. So in March of 2023 is when the ChatGPT API came out. And that's really when we saw legal tech start to build on it. Case or co-counsel Case Text, they had beta access to that platform. So they started in kind of November 2022 when ChatGPT was released to the public. And that was really kind of when AI was in its wrapper stage, right? So you could potentially use ChatGPT with your documents for document review, for chatting with your document or chatting with your case. And law firms were really just trying to see, how can I use this technology at my law firm? So there was a lot of experimentation. So common use cases were a law firm trying to draft particular documents using ChatGPT or writing emails. And that was really the first phase. And we're still kind of in that phase, and then moving to the phase 2 of legal AI adoption right now. And that's where we get to, how do we program this on top of the AI APIs and AI models to actually start solving real problems? So how can I automate specific tasks within my firm, such as creating medical chronologies using patient bills? So that's a task that probably took someone, or is taking someone 20 plus hours right now. So those menial tasks and kind of boring, time-consuming tasks are what we're really starting to see people work on in the space. And then we're also starting to see practice management systems actually start integrating with AI directly, and existing legal tech providers, as well as new players like my company, and then Foxit's doing AI as well. So we're really starting to see it start to solve real problems here. And Nick, I don't know if you wanted to add anything there.
No, I was going to ask, do you guys integrate with practice management tools today?
We do. So we integrate with Smokeball, and then we're working on an additional integration right now. And then we're also partnering with Foxit for our AI integration.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then Nick, I know Foxit has an integration with Salesforce as well. So that's how that all connects together there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll kind of paint that full story as we go through this. But yeah, I appreciate the call out there. You ready for the next slide?
Yep, we can go. So AI really is designed right now to make law firms more competitive. So I was talking with a law firm earlier this week, and he was saying that AI will allow him to take on more cases, because cases that weren't profitable for that firm, if we're able to automate some of these tasks with AI, will now become profitable for the firm, because they're able to automate a lot of the tasks that they have. And then there's also less time spent per case. So since the firm is able to automate different documents within the flow, such as in personal injury, they're more motivated to automate a lot of those processes, because they'll be able to get more settlements. In addition to that, we're starting to see more firms adopt a fixed fee billing system. So since they are able to automate some of these document creation tasks, instead of having a billable hour for certain types of cases, they can just charge the client a fixed fee. And we're starting to see that specifically in family law is where I've seen that, where if you have a simple divorce process, AI can help with some of that form fill. So we're starting to see also that shift in billing model. We haven't seen it too much, but starting to see kind of early signs of that move.
It's interesting that you mentioned that too. Is that, I've been a previous world. I was in tax and accounting, and tax and accounting I think is probably like 8 to 10 years from a tech standpoint ahead of where legal is. And I was there about 7 years ago, and we started to see companies go to a flat rate value-based billing model. And I'm really interested to see how that continues to grow and transform as AI starts to make things more efficient. I remember reading a quote. I don't remember where it was, so I just tell people I made it up. And it said, AI isn't going to replace you, but someone who uses AI when you don't will replace you. And I think what the story you just told is very, in line with that, is that AI is making people more efficient. And I use it, 20, 30 times a day. And the one thing that I think, and you'll cover it, I believe, when you go through your demos, is, when and you have competency in a subject, then you don't have to worry about, AI providing you false information, because you have the ability to verify and validate and fix. And so what it really enables me to do is, do 80% of the initial work and then allow me to focus on the finer points of that last 20%, but it saves me a significant amount of time. And so I see that happening in legal tech as well. So it's a really interesting tie-in that you had there.
Yeah, exactly. And everything will still have to be reviewed by an attorney, right? So you're completely right. That'll get you 80% of the way there, maybe right now, maybe a higher percentage.
Maybe, yes,
right?
as it continues to grow and get better, yes. But that human aspect is always going to be there. But now I can review 20 things instead of having to prepare and review 5 things. And that's really where the value is. So we talked about all the great things.
Yeah, let's talk about
So we talked about all the great things. What are some of the negative things that we have to remember to consider with AI?
Yeah, so these can be remediated, right? So one of the big items, especially in legal tech, is hallucinations. So I'm sure everyone heard about the ChatGPT lawyer who was citing false case law. So there are ways that this can be circumvented, right? So you can provide the AI model with sources of truth. So this applies across industries, right? We have certain sources of truth. So within the legal area, it would be providing the AI model with a case law database, right? So that's one way we can circumvent hallucinations. And then also with Legalize, we're providing the AI the case documentation, right? So we have prompts at Legalize that say, hey, if it's not in this case context, go ahead and say, no, I can't find it, because the AI and large language model really is designed to please the end user, right? So if you don't give it a way out, it'll try to answer the question and in a way that could potentially be inaccurate. And then we can also turn down the creativity of the AI to 0. So especially for fact finding, this is important. So that's a potential way that we can reduce hallucinations as well.
And from a security standpoint, have there been like regulations or laws passed, like ISOs that have been implemented to have standards around AI in particular?
Yeah, so we started to see this, especially in late 2023, as AI adoption was increasing. So in December, there was an ISO released. It's called ISO 42001. And that's a certification, a standard certification for a technology company who's developing on AI or developing AI models. And then we also saw the European Union, they recently, this was in the past month, created the AI Act, which just provides some guidelines for AI models and establishes some risk tiers from high risk to low risk to be able to further regulate AI models. And you'll start to see, I think, especially end clients start to demand these types of certifications, similar as we currently see in tech, right? With HIPAA and SOC 2, SOC 2, we'll also start to see these companies demand these specific AI certifications, right? Just to have that extra layer of security.
Got you. Yeah, no, that's big in any industry, but in regulated ones in particular, those types of things are super important. We've gone through multiple processes to get, HIPAA, SOC, CFR, all of those compliance factors. And I think it's important to have that. And I think it's important for companies to have trust at the end of the day. And I think that's the biggest thing, because, even when you look at legal tech, some of the bigger platforms are still on-premise solutions, right? And so there is that tentativeness to adopt technology, especially when you have partners that have been partners for 30 years and are retiring in the next 5-6 years. Why would they want to change anything now? So there's kind of that mixed bag. And so even when you think about the cloud and the legal tech space, even that's sometimes like we can't say that. And so I imagine with AI, it's even more, we can't talk about that at all. So it is interesting, but I do think some of those certifications and things that are in place and coming into place will help reduce some of that potential resistance. And I think the fact that you're seeing it in every industry and every platform, Salesforce with Einstein, that it's not going away. And that, with the right company, the right people, and the right processes, you can take full advantage of what AI can do for your business.
And I'll also say some more on security. So an important thing to note when you're selecting an AI vendor or a cloud AI model is that it's not doing any training on your data. So out of the box, if you don't have a paid subscription to ChatGPT, it's actually doing training on your data. And you have to go into the settings to be able to turn that off. And this is just using the model directly from OpenAI. And then we are also seeing a rise in open source models. So you can host an AI model yourself on a cloud platform. So we're starting to see that, even with some law firms starting to host their private AI model. So I think you'll see more of that in the future, coming in the next year or the year after, where larger law firms will start to actually have their own private AI model on site.
That's really interesting, because we have a tool that uses AI to do auto redaction of information. And so that's one use case that we saw fairly quickly that was valuable with our customer base. Do you see instances where being able to potentially leverage your customers' data, if they allow you to train your models, would be beneficial? Or what other ways are you training it through those open source methods, or what are you guys doing to improve that if you're not able to utilize your customers' data?
Yeah, so I think it's a permission thing, right? And you have to have guardrails on that data. So if you're training the model or fine tuning based on that customer's data, you need to make sure the guardrails are in place. So they're the only one who's using that specific model.
Gotcha.
So I think it's fine in that instance, especially if a law firm really wants the writing to be in their style. I think fine tuning is really important for that, but ensure that whichever AI vendor you're using, it has those guardrails in place where law firm B can't be using law firm A's fine-tuned model that's to their style.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Cool. Any other thoughts on security? You ready to move on?
No, I think we're good there. I think we'll start to see more and more standards in addition to the ones we discussed as well, and more regulations, I think, around AI.
Cool. All right. So now it's demo time. I know, Chris, you're going to showcase Legalize. We're not going to demo our product today, but feel free to utilize that QR code to learn more about it. And we officially launched our latest version last night. So it's the newest one that's available in the App Store. But Chris, you want to go ahead and give a quick demo, and then we'll start answering some questions.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And while I'm doing that, I'll just give some quick background on Legalize. So again, we are founded in partnership with a civil litigation firm. So they had a large trial that was going on, and it was right when the ChatGPT API came out. So they needed a way to quickly summarize documents within the case and then analyze the whole case so they could chat with the whole case. So we built that to help with them and then have scaled from there. So I think I should, yeah, I'm on the screen. So I'll go to my case here. And like I said, you can chat with the entire case as a whole. So this is a case I created with some police reports. And I asked the case as a whole, what were the injuries within the context? That goes ahead and answers here. And a nice thing kind of going back to the hallucinations, where you really want it to source the data from somewhere, whether that be a source of truth that's a case database, or your own documents, which here we can go to our sources, and then we can actually see that it was looking at this particular accident report, and we have up to 30 or 15 sources here, but can go up to 30 sources. So that's really important.
Do you guys link back to the source where I could click on that link and go directly to that document?
We're actually just about to add that feature.
There's a little product guy doing a little roadmap for you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. And then I can select on the particular report, and we just have some pre-built prompts here from our common customers are within personal injury and family law right now. So I've kind of designed the prompts specifically for them here. And then this is relevant to kind of that roadmap of AI that we went through. So we built this as completely as a document review platform. And now the second phase of our development is actually, how do we use these documents to create documents that are within the repeatable process of a law firm? So right now we're building a medical chronology generator, and then are also doing some things in family law to specifically generate procedural documents within a family law case. And then I'll show one more thing before I wrap up here. So this is a new feature we just added called question templates. And this is if you have a repeatable document that you're consistently uploading. So in this case, it's a police report. So every time you upload a document, our AI will ask these 5 questions towards the document. So it can save you some time just on repeatable processes. So I'll go into the case, and you can see this is one I already did. And I can go and view the answers here to the questions I asked. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. That was just the quick demo, and feel free to go to legalized.ai if you want a further demo or discuss our product further. Thanks.
Yep, no, thank you for that. So one of the things that I think is really interesting about AI and legal tech in general is just the variety of uses. So, you mentioned that you guys were kind of focused on, creating, court documents and filings and things like that based on, the law firms like styles and things like that. Well, what do you guys see in, 12 months from now, like that would, where you guys could kind of fit in, and what are you guys trying to focus on at that point? Or where do you see the industry going, maybe from a broader stance? Because things are very focused right now, which is good, but like we're just the tip of the iceberg,
Yeah, I think you'll start to see more adoption from law firms. So right now, I would say we're very much still in the early adopter phase of AI in legal tech. So it goes back to what we were discussing about how can AI help my firm, right, solve real problems. So I think you'll start to see more of these specific tasks get automated. Past just generic form fill, right? And then we're starting to see it more in use in legal research. So you've seen a lot of the big legal research firms like Thomson Reuters and Lexis come out with their legal research products. And then I think you'll just see the space start to mature, right? Where we're starting to reach the middle of that adoption curve. And hopefully that comes in later in the year into 2025 to see more adoption in the space.
Awesome. Cool. No, I appreciate that. I think to kind of, wrap up, this portion of the conversation and move on to some questions. I think for me, what's the most exciting is, legal tech as an industry is, you saw the numbers, right? It's growing fairly exceptionally fast. And, when you think about law firms, there are approximately 40,000 law firms in the United States today. And in that really unique sweet spot of like 15 to 20 attorneys to 100, that is, I think, close to about 15,000. And that's really where you start to see the initial adoption of like CRM technologies. Of that, 40,000 law firms, 78% of them have reported that they use some form of CRM. And there's also, platforms like Litify, for example, which is built off of Salesforce. That is a legal practice management platform that's tied to the CRM aspect of all the cool things that Salesforce does. And so I think what's exciting and what I really want the audience to start thinking about is, having expertise in AI, especially in legal tech or even in, specific industries, that adds a lot of value to the services that you're able to provide kind of ongoing. And, being able to market yourselves as having an AI expert or partnering with AI experts to, provide that consultancy, I think is going to be really important. And I think that's really relevant for the audience here. So kind of my takeaway to the audience to give is, really look at what that investment in learning and bringing your team up to speed, to leverage, to look at what AI can do and how it can help your business and how it can help, your consultancy services by offering this service to law firms and to, into other industries, because, they're not technical savvy. They're not technically savvy. There's a handful of people at those firms that are, but like, this is so cutting edge that like expertise is going to be extremely appreciated moving forward. So that would be kind of my push to the audience, is to really hone in and take advantage of that. Chris, any words to wrap up before we move on to the questions?
Yeah, that's a good point. There are a lot of ways to educate yourself out there. I mean, the AI space is moving at a rapid pace, so sometimes it can be hard to catch up. But I would encourage you to also look at, if you're on the technical side, some open source packages that are out there, like LangChain or Llama Index, if you're looking to build on artificial intelligence. And then there are also open source models that are coming out, it seems like, each week. So those are really good to look at just to get a grasp on how you can use AI within your tech consulting practice.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for that. Ben, we'll open it up for questions. I see you got a new hoodie on.
I have, yeah. I was getting a bit cold actually, so I wouldn't put my hoodie on. Yeah,
AI,
great conversation. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, too exciting. But yeah, super interesting. And thanks for the demo, Chris. It's great to see. I've been thinking a lot recently about the kind of verticalization of AI, and it's being talked a lot about more. But I know Brett Taylor, the ex co-CEO of Salesforce, has gone off to start his own AI startup focused on customer support, conversational AI, that kind of thing. And I was just thinking, like, the first person to nail that customer service AI is going to disrupt a huge industry. And it's, the same for legal tech and, every other industry or kind of department within a business. So yeah, fascinating conversation. If anyone wants to check out Legalize or Foxit, feel free. I've put the links in the comments. You've also got the QR code there as well. If anyone doesn't have any questions, we've got a bit of time, so feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll try and get around to as many as possible. I can see a few here, so let's get started with them. So there's one here about examples of how AI is being used to ensure compliance within legal firms or departments in other businesses. Could you maybe speak a little bit around that?
Yeah, so actually that's a really good question. We are looking at it from a couple of ways. So one idea that we actually had at a hackathon recently was to select a type of compliance. So call it we'll use a CFR in this example, and then have a document, and then have it analyze it to see if it is compliant. And then if it isn't compliant, be able to give you like a checker that says, hey, you need to fix these things. And then as you fix those things, it will then check those boxes. And then at the end of the day, it'll say, hey, you have a compliant document. So those are some of the things that we're working on the Foxit side of things, because we are taking for a while, we were very kind of do a little bit of everything, but now we're starting to verticalize. And legal and healthcare and tax and accounting are kind of our core initial deep dives right now. And legal's really the first one that we're really, putting a significant investment in time and effort to. And so that's something that we see that's going to be really valuable. And then, beyond that, working with, Chris, we're working on an integration as well. But yeah, I think, being able to have a document be run through this AI that says, hey, is this compliant with these regulations? I think that's a really great way to utilize that. And then as you continue to train and as regulatory rules change, then you can update those and be able to stay atop of things and not lose any progress.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks a lot, Meg. And then in terms of some of the challenges of AI, you spoke about hallucinations, and there's been a lot of talk about considerations of AIs. But in terms of integrating AI into existing systems, what are some of the challenges that people might face around that?
Yeah, Chris, I'll let you take that one. You're dealing with that on a daily basis right now.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we're currently integrating with some practice management systems. I mean, I think a lot of it is make sure the data that you're integrating with is correct, right, and is useful for the task at hand. Because a lot of this can turn into, right, garbage in to the large language model, and then you're going to get garbage out of the large language model. So making sure that data is properly sanitized and the platform you're integrating with, right, has the data that you need to get your end result. Kind of going back to solving the real problem, right? We need to make sure that we have it covered end to end. It's not just throwing AI at some garbage data.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. I think taking it a step further into the code, you got to make one of the biggest things you'll see is you'll have systems that are closed, right? Like they don't have an API that has that to give access to. And so when you have this great solution and you want to integrate it, but you can't, like then you have to figure out, what that looks like. And that typically means that someone has to build APIs or build some sort of, way to bring that connection. And so a lot of legal technology that want to leverage AI aren't in a position to. And so you'll see a lot of technical transformations during this time frame as well to enable them to do that. But they'll be a little late to the game. And so tech companies in general, or software providers in general that do have better APIs, better integrations, they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to take advantage of the tech way faster than their competitors because of that nature.
Yeah, that's a really good point there.
Sorry, Chris, I'll let you finish off.
Oh, no, it's fine. Yeah, because Legalized.ai, we're really working with the practice management systems right now that do have an open API, just because it's so much easier for us to go on and integrate and kind of create a repeatable process on that integration versus us creating an API, which we eventually plan to do, but down the line.
Yeah, I completely get it. It's kind of funny with data, right? Because people know they've needed to get their data in order for years and years and years, but there's technically been no kind of trigger point to really do it. You're missing out on insights, but it's not like, you're missing out on, there's nothing coming to bite you. But now with AI becoming like the competitive advantage, there is a real reason to get your data in order so you can really reap the rewards. So yeah, it's kind of like we're at a tipping point at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then, I mean, this is a big one in terms of ethical considerations or privacy concerns. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are, but what are the considerations with privacy when you're talking about using AI in the legal space?
Yeah, Chris, you want to take that one, and I'll chime in.
Yeah, sure. And it goes back to our discussion around having guardrails on the data, making sure that the AI model is not using the data you're uploading into it for to train itself, right? Unless there's a private AI model in place or specific guardrails, right? And then also making sure that the AI vendor has the standard security protocols in place, right? So encrypted data, having secure servers. A lot of that traditional security does still apply there, and then you have kind of the added thing of just making sure that it's not doing any particular training on the data, and then sharing that out.
And another little caveat story to that is we were at a conference and one of our security compliance team members was giving a presentation. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. A security presentation. How boring is this going to be? Turns out it was like the best presentation. And basically he was talking about, all the questionnaires that our team gets and people get to go through security. And at the end of the day, every single response he said was all they're asking is, can I trust you? And so when you think about like the ethics and the nature of that, it's obviously the can I trust you? And then, the transparency, right? It's like, hey, if you want to make this work better for you, we need to be able to access certain things. And that just comes to transparency at the end of the day. And if you show that transparency, you build that trust, then you're going to have better relationships with your, with everybody in your professional life, your personal life. And I think that's really important as well to talk about, because it is the human side of what we're doing in this technical world.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the people on this call will be from the Salesforce ecosystem, potentially implementing or running Salesforce orgs internally in legal space. So how exactly is this going to impact Salesforce consultants? And maybe you could expand on that and kind of talk about how Salesforce consultants can assist legal teams in this new age of AI.
Yeah, so I had a couple of points as I was closing that kind of alluded to some of that. So 78% of law firms, and this is just in the US, 78% of law firms use CRM platforms, right? And in that sweet spot of, that 15 to 100 attorney offices, you're going to have typically, 100 attorney offices probably going to have, 200 and 220 employees. And they're using CRMs, they're using Salesforce, they're using the HubSpots. And I had also mentioned, Litify, which is a legal practice management platform, is built off of Salesforce. And so, those are, potential customers. And then, understanding, when you get into the verticalization, understanding who those complementary components are to optimizing how a practice is being ran, I think is a great way to continue to add value. And then, building up, partnerships and referral networks to be able to supply and, point to those vendors, I think is also beneficial to the consultant. And then the other thing that I kind of, talked about was building an expertise around AI and being leveraged as an AI consultant. And then, taking it a step further with, what Chris and his team is doing and, working together with, vendors like that to help train models at individual locations. I think is really another really unique way to start taking advantage of that, because, as great as LinkedIn is, there's a lot of, LinkedIn influencers who just talk a lot. And so when you actually have the clout and merits to back up what you're saying and doing, and you can show it, that's really is what's going to set it's really what's going to make the difference, because like you can't BS your way out of AI. Like there's just too much going on. And so I think being able to set yourself apart and be, have, a special team that focuses on AI innovation and learning, I think that's a great way to bring in some additional services. And then, beyond that, working with how to optimize leveraging AI, right? Like what are, kind of a lean Six Sigma approach to, hey, here's all of our processes that we follow. How can AI come in and implement? And, what are the things that we can do within Salesforce that, automated workflows that are powered by AI decision-making, things like that. I think there's just a lot of really great opportunities to create amazing efficiencies by leveraging AI and becoming an expert and taking that to, specific industries in particular. Like specializing, I think, is really important when it comes to AI.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes it feels like everyone is talking about AI, and everyone is, but I think it's still kind of quite a small portion of people in comparison to the entire world. We're in the tech ecosystem, of course, we're talking about AI, but I think I think you said talked about the influencers then, and there was, as soon as ChatGPT came out, there were a bunch of influencers that start selling their courses on AI and stuff like that. And I don't know if I'd recommend those, but I think, as you're kind of alluding to, I think there's a lot of merit in focusing down in how AI can add value to specific business processes, to specific industries. You know, doing, you know, if you're a Salesforce consultancy who works across a number of industries, you know, focusing on those industries, because at the end of the day, AI is going to be massively use case based.
That's a beautiful way to put it, because that's how you're going to be successful. Because everyone today, right now, they can go to ChatGPT. We can be an AI generalist already, right? But the value is when you go like, you know, inch deep, mile wide. No, we need to go, you know, mile deep. And I think that's I couldn't agree more. I think you have to be vertical focused, even if it's one or two verticals, or verticals that are fairly adjacent, like, you know, the legal space and tax and accounting have a lot of similarities. You know, FDA research versus pharmaceutical research, European medical research, like they're all very adjacent and similar, but like being able to find that niche and vertical expertise is really how you're going to set yourself apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Even if you start really small, just adding a simple AI task into workflow, you can really start to see the results. And then it gets you those quick wins with the client, so you can start to build upon that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's kind of experimenting as well, Chris. You know, this stuff is so new to a lot of people. It's impossible to bang, just implement something and it's going to work great. I think it's a matter of kind of testing, experimenting, getting feedback, you know, seeing what works.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think those are all the questions that we've had in. I'll just pause for a minute just to see if there's any other ones, but cool. Yeah, I think we can wrap up. Nate, Chris, thank you so much for your time here. Been a really fascinating chat. This is the first chat. We've had a lot of chats about AI, but I think this is the first one that really dug into specific processes, specific industries. So a really fascinating chat. And thank you to everyone that's joined us today. I saw there was quite a lot of people on the call. So great to see you all. And thank you for spending the past 45 minutes with us. Chris, any final words before we sign off?
Yeah, just thank you everyone for viewing. And if you'd like to check out Legalized, check us out at legalized.ai. And happy to just have a chat.
Great. Thank Chris. And Nick?
No, thanks everybody. Appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, I'm an open LinkedIner, so feel free to send a request, and love to have a little virtual happy hour conversation about legal tech and what we're doing, and just share my thoughts. So appreciate everybody's time, and thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ben.
Great. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See you all soon.
Cheers.